This is one of my favorite songs listening to every day. Best day of my life, right? And it is Happy Thanksgiving, and I invite you to have a wonderful day, expressing the good, the holy, and the beautiful. And so again, one of my favorite songs here. I stole this a little bit from Earl Purdy, who does this every time he does Facebook Live, and I thought, I know that I'm allowed, I guess, 45 seconds of it to be in the public domain, so I'm going to continue with this. And today I went to Starbucks this morning, and I sat down with the Way of Mastery here, and it's here somewhere. Oh, it's right here, right in front of me. So I hope that you're having a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving today. Hey, Juanita Smith, I love you so much. So I want to just kind of continue what I started with last Thursday. And, we're talking about the way of the heart, and how you create your own experience here. And I want to start here. Before I go into the delving into the Way of Mastery, I want to remind you that on December the 3rd at Unity on the Bay in Miami, I'm starting a monthly workshop / class on A Course in Miracles as well as the Way of Mastery. And it's a $20 suggested offering there. I believe it is. So you'll get the emails and the notifications from Unity on the Bay at that moment, and so it'll be nice to see you there. And I'm starting again in Miami for the first time after a year. So the first time I was speaking there was May 21st with a dialogue with Chris, but this will be my first time to do a workshop or class of A Course in Miracles at Unity on the Bay. So I wanted to start with put my little meditation pillow behind me here. Okay, where the Way of Mastery in Lesson 2, we started with Lesson 1 about 2 weeks ago, and we went ahead with Lesson 2, I think, last Thursday night, and we're going to continue this afternoon talking about the way of the heart and how you create your own experience. So it started here, and I read all of this again this morning in Starbucks. I love Starbucks. I was surprised that it was even open today, but it was. And the Way of Mastery starts by saying this: the goal that we seek has never changed. It is in truth a journey without distance. And this is the same parlance, the same words from A Course in Miracles as well. That the goal of our curriculum is to know that what we seek has never changed at all. That you and I are as God created us and not what we made of ourselves. You see this? And so, in other words, let me look at it in a different kind of way. Whatever events, whatever circumstances that are happening in time and space right now does not add anything to you, does not subtract anything from you. It does not change you at all. Because you are as God created you and not what you made of yourself. Okay? That's it. It is in truth a journey without distance. In other words, it doesn't involve time and space whatsoever. So enlightenment or heaven or nirvana is not an experience that we experience in the future. It's what we are experiencing in this moment. And this is why I invite you right now to acknowledge the presence of God and holiness in our midst right now. I've got a little hot right now, and I acknowledge right also the presence of God, the mind of God that is expressing itself right now in this moment. The question is, are you allowing yourself the comfort of experiencing that oneness, that sacred experience, the nature of love that moves within me and within you. This is why it is in truth a journey without distance. So you don't have to change anything in time and space whatsoever. But we do have to do is to change our minds about it right now. That's it. It is merely the return to where you are always, that you might begin anew to create deliberately, clearly, and with the perfect knowledge that if you are experiencing something, it is because you are the source of it and for no other reason. Okay? I am the source of everything that I am experiencing in time and space. Why? Because my mind is not here. The mind of God and my mind and your mind is in this field of awareness. That's it. Everything that we see, everything that we interact with in time and space is a product, a reflection, a mirror of what we are experiencing in time and space. So, I hope that you get this. I hope that you get it. The way of the heart is not a way of gaining power. It is not a way in which you will finally be able to make the world be what you want it to be. Rather, it is a pathway in which you learn to transcend and to dissolve from your consciousness every perception, every thought which is out of alignment with what is true. The thought of death is out of alignment. The thought of fear is out of alignment. The thought of guilt is out of alignment. So let me just get a little bit more detailed here in what I am conveying to you. So it's not about me understanding that our thoughts are powerful, and they are powerful right now. Okay? Every thought that we think manifests itself in some manner, in some way, in our field of awareness. So we see the evidence of it right in front of us right now. You don't like what you're experiencing right now? It's because you yourself, either through miscreation or creation, made it. You either made it or you created it. One of those two things. And so you're seeing the ripples of the pebble of fear that you have dropped into this field of awareness. You are experiencing the ripples, the effects of all of the pebble of love, for instance, that you have placed into the pool of awareness we call life. And so you will experiencing the effects of that for that reason. So yeah, you have the ability to shift time and space through your thoughts and manifest through magic whatever you want to experience in time and space. There's a big problem with this, though, and that is because we are under the notion that we know what's in our own best interest. And so when we think this, then we can manifest what we want to manifest in time and space. And so it's not about that. It's rather about you and I beginning to align our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, our behavior in alignment with the mind of God. We have to be at one with the mind of God. That's it. That simple shift in alignment can bring an experience of the good, the holy, and the beautiful. That's it. So you don't have to strive, you don't have to struggle, you don't have to navigate yourself through time and space to bring a conclusion that brings you happiness or peace or joy or bliss. All that is required of us to do is to shift our minds to align itself with the mind of God. That's it. That's it. That is why the thought of death is out of alignment. God did not create death. God is as incapable of creating the temporary as the ego is incapable of creating that which is eternal. So we have two schools of thought here. One is reality, what God has created us, or what we have aligned ourselves, a fallacy, an hallucination from the voice of fear. And both of those things we will experience the effect of it in time and space. I hope that you're getting this. This is why the thought of fear is out of alignment with the mind of God. This is why that the thought of guilt is out of alignment with the mind of God. So whenever we entertain or give energy to or power to the voice of fear, or the voice of fear that brings us an experience of guilt, we will see, when we give that power, we're going to see the manifestation of it in time and space. It is true that the thought of love is in alignment with the mind of God. It is. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead with the way of mastery lesson 2 here. The thought of eternal life is in alignment. That's what I just said. The thought of perfect fearlessness is in alignment. The thought of peace is in alignment. The realization of innocence is in alignment. The thoughts of joy and forgiveness are in alignment and reflect the truth that is true always. So in other words, the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, goodness, kindness, patience, faithfulness, and self-control, all of those fruits of the Spirit are in alignment with the mind of God. So when we begin to shift our minds to align with itself, with the mind of God, then the beautiful and the holy and the good begins to manifest in time and space. Okay? I hope that you understand that. It takes great courage and great faith to look upon all of your creations, your thoughts, your feelings, your manifestations with love and with the innocence of a child. Also, the way of mastery as well says, it is for this reason that the Father's will is that you be happy, and that your happiness is found in choosing to restore your perfect alignment with only the voice of God. I have said this many times this week, almost every day of this month, of every day of every year, to my friends, to my brothers and sisters, to those who I'm counseling, to say to themselves and to myself that the only thing that is important for us as we move through this world is to understand that what we want to harbor our minds with was the thought of only loving thoughts. That's it. And when we occupy our minds with only loving thoughts, then we're going to see the experience of that love manifested in our world. It is that simple. It is that easy. Again, it takes great courage, though. It takes great faith to look upon all of your creations, not with blame, not with attack, not with a victimhood, but rather to retrieve all of those projections of fear and guilt and so forth that you have placed upon this world, to bring it back to your responsibility as a son or a daughter of God who has an awesome and a powerful mind. It's so powerful that you see right now in this moment the effects of how powerful your mind is. The way of mastery says, why is this important? Because a long time ago, the soul began to create the perception that it was something other than it was created to be. In other words, what you and I are experiencing on this wonderful day we call Thanksgiving Day is the experience of seeing other than what God has created us to be in this moment. What God has created us to be is unchanging and unchangeable. And because of that, nothing in this world can affect our true identity. It is only when we begin to give our attention to the notion that something else has been created beyond what God has already created as real and true. Okay, this is why A Course in Miracles tells us each and every time that, in fact, I'm just going to get it right here and read it to you. It's very quick here at the beginning of it. Right here. And I love this so much, a portion of A Course in Miracles here. At the beginning, it gives us the beginning of nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And herein lies the peace of God. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And herein lies the peace of God. So that's what we're talking about then. Nothing real, the love of God, our own identity can be threatened in any way. This is why. Nothing in time and space can add anything to us. Nothing can subtract anything from us. And we are as God created us right now. And because of that, we understand as well that the world in its bottom line is neutral. Because it is an effect. It has no charge. It has no power at all. There is only one power, and it is the power of God. Now, we can express that power when we step back and empty our minds and begin to merge ourselves with the mind of God. Then, and only then, can we experience the power, not from us, but from the power of God. The power of love, the power of joy, the power of the peace of God. Okay? I hope we understand this. And the voice for ego, and the voice for the ego emerged within the garden of consciousness as the soul, that deepest aspect of the mind that you have all known, began to identify with a voice that was other than the voice for God. That voice has led you to believe that your creations determine your worthiness. Do you believe? Do you know that feeling? Of course you know that feeling. You and I have experienced it in time and space. Okay? Furthermore, the only failure seems to occur within your own consciousness when you believe that it is not acceptable to receive and own and embrace your creation with love and with innocence. So what does that mean? That means that most people who are asleep in this world traffics in blame and attack and victimhood. So they want to blame all of their problems, their sufferings, their sadness, their depression upon somebody else and to some organization or some other event that is happening in time and space. This is not true. This is not true. Again, the only failure seems to occur within your own consciousness when you believe that it is not acceptable to receive and own and embrace your creation with love and with innocence. So when something occurs in our field of awareness, hi Scott, it's good to see you, my holy friend. And by the way, he's a wonderful teacher of God as well. So we invite you to review Scott as well. But I'm saying this that most people, when an event occurs in time and space, finds it to be a difficult prospect that they are experiencing, because what they are unfolding and embracing in that event is more fear, more blame, more guilt, more attack. And because of that, they're going to experience the ripples of that. They're going to experiencing the effect of it. But you know what, though? We can choose again. We can choose again. In this moment, in the present moment, the eternal timeless now, we can say, oh, I can see that event arising within my field of awareness, but I can choose again. I can instead enfold and embrace that event, that circumstance, with innocence. To embrace it 100%, not as something that is separate from you, but rather a product of what we ourselves have either miscreated or created. And in that moment, we can choose again. We can align our minds with the mind of God, and in so doing, we can enfold that event with innocence, without sin whatsoever. And to see instead beyond the veil of separation, beyond the veil of guilt, beyond the veil of tears, beyond the veil of sadness, to our own reality as a son or a child of God, to experience ourselves as the love of God incarnate, to allow ourselves to experience the light of God incarnate in our day-to-day experience in time and space. The Way of Mastery says that is where the catch is. That part of the mind began to teach you a long, long time ago what to accept as acceptable creations and what to not accept, what to take responsibility for and what to deny responsibility for. So that's what we do each and every day. We see what's happening in this field of awareness, and we see something arising in our field of awareness, and we don't like what we are seeing. So we project it out. We look inside first of all and say, oh, I don't like what is happening here in my field, and so I'm going to project it upon somebody else. They're the problem, not me. You see this? That is where the catch is. Okay, so you're either accepting what you already have either miscreated or created, or you are denying it. You are living in a cesspool of denial. Oh, that's unacceptable to me, so I'm going to avoid it. I'm not going to interact with it. I'm going to reject it. And in those moments, my friends, we perpetuate that very sabotage dynamic that we bring into the event. Do you see the difference there? I hope so. This is the way that the Way of Mastery continues by saying, helplessness, hopelessness, despair, anger, and hatred are all symptoms of a fundamental delusion that has occurred within the depth of the mind. It has occurred because there has been a long history of having cultivated the skill of listening to the wrong voice. The wrong voice is the voice of the ego. Look, I've said this before, and it's on our videos in our website, the Academy of Spiritual Awakening.org. Everything that we are doing here on Facebook Live is on our website under the A Course in Miracles tab. We have two voices here. We have two choices, two voices. The voice of love or the voice of fear. That's it. We don't have several choices here. We have two. The voice of love will bring you an experience of love, joy, goodness, kindness, patience, faithfulness, and self-control. Listening instead to the voice of fear is going to bring us an experience of sadness and defeat and suffering. That's it. So yeah, our minds are very powerful. And every thought that we utilize as a device in time and space is equally powerful, because it will create a powerful experience of love, or it will create a powerful experience of fear and darkness and suffering. All of the responsibility rests within our own psyche. That's it. Yes, indeed, Scott. Yes, indeed. We are as God created us, and not what we made of ourselves. We are trafficking in listening to the wrong voice. Oh, boy. What a day, right? Are you having a good day? I hope so. I hope that you are living and abiding and moving in the light of God. That's it. All that we are interacting with this beautiful day is the mind of Christ. That's it. That's it. Nothing more. There is no sin. There is no guilt. There is no attack, no battlefield, no war, no nothing. But your and my own identity as a child of the day, as a child of the light. That's it. That's it. For how many of you have not known the feeling of resting your head upon the pillow at night and not being able to sleep because it is just not going the way you expected? The reason you cannot sleep is because you are in a judgment of your creation. That's it. Look, every night, I have a prayer from A Course in Miracles. I say this every night, but I also say repeatedly to myself, I rest in God. I rest in God. I'm living and I am moving and abiding in the mind of God. I am resting myself, my identity, in the eternal timeless now that has been given to us as an inheritance, a legacy from our source. But then what do? We dismiss it immediately. We dismiss it. And then that dismissing our true reality and blaming everybody else for our problems, yeah, that is why we then enter into a dynamic of judgment in that moment. That's the person that I'm experiencing sadness now. That is the person that I'm experiencing depression. That is the reason why I'm experiencing lack and limitation. That is the reason that I'm experiencing all of those phenomena that I'm experiencing in time and space. And I'm doing this through judgment. What is judgment? Judgment is the belief that what has God created as perfect and whole has somehow changed. Okay, that is the voice of the ego. We have experienced the gift and the legacy and the inheritance from our source. But then the voice of the ego rises up in our minds and said, hey, there's something else for you, a better place for you. And this is what the prodigal son experienced when he left the kingdom as well, and what Adam and Eve experienced as well when they left the garden. They left their own identity. They left the legacy, the inheritance that has been given to us, right? And they, what do? Through judgment, dismisses immediately the gift that has been given to us. So in other words, it's a matter of authorship. That I want to say to God, hey, I'm in competition with you for my happiness. I think that I can create a dynamic or a scenario in time and space that is better than the one that you have already given to me in this moment. And in that moment is us identifying ourselves with the voice of fear. And in that process, we picked the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And in that moment, we went asleep. And in that asleep state, we then begin a process of judging the world that we ourselves have either miscreated or created in this world. You want to play small? Then play small. Go ahead and continue to be asleep. And I'm not here to judging you for being asleep. That's incapable for me to do that. I'm not here saying that you shouldn't judge. I'm here to say to you that you are incapable of judgment entirely. You are. You would have to know the experience that a person goes through in the past, in the present environment that they are in, the imprint that they have been received by their parents, their grandparents, or a litany of history we call incarnation. Of course. And so people are either asleep or awake. They can't be both. Okay? So I invite you to be awake right now. To dislodge yourself from that voice of fear, that raucous and shrieking voice of fear, and then to align yourself instead with the mind of God. That's why this world is holy and innocent, okay? Because that is what your creation should be. Because you are created to be holy, to be pure, to be without guilt of any kind, to be without of sin of any kind. And Scott, listen, by the way, I listen to you, my holy brother. I do. And you are awake. I love watching you, my friend. From time to time, when I have the time to stop there, silencing that voice of fear and to say, what should I listen to right now? And I see Scott there. His giving his FaceTime live in, I think, Australia. Right, Scott? And doing this very same thing that we are doing right now. And that is expressing the good, the holy, and the beautiful. That's all. That's it. And so when you see a holy brother expressing the love of God incarnate, boy, you can, in that moment, you're in California. Thank you, Scott. I thought you were in Australia. I don't know why. But you're in California. So then you begin to resonate with that self-same light that person is expressing in that moment, right? You're like, yes, I see that. I see that light within that person, and that self-same light that person is expressing and extending to the world also lives within me as well. That's it. Oh, wow, I have seen the light of God too, Scott. So it would be difficult for me to try to navigate myself through time and space without wanting to express that light of God in this moment. That's it. That's it. It would be equivalent to a bird singing today. I can hear it outside right now. Right? So it would be incapable for that bird not to sing anymore, right? Because somebody said, oh, you're not a good singer here. No, they're going to sing regardless. And the same is true between me and you. We will continue, regardless of the manifestations or the events or the circumstances that is occurring in time and space, by seeing ourselves differently, by recognizing and remembering our identity that has been given to us as a light of the God, as a child of the light, as a child of the day. But it is possible to cultivate just the opposite, in which you learn to look with perfect innocence upon all things that arise in the field of experience. So unfortunately, I'm going to move this, by the way, because this light here, let me just change it here for you so we can see it differently. I hope that's better. No, it's not. So let me just change where I'm at here. About here. Is that better? I hope so. Okay. So I want to say this again. But it is possible to cultivate just the opposite, in which you learn to look with perfect innocence upon all things that arise in the fuel of your experience. So in other words, instead of looking at your world with the eyes of sin, without the eyes of blame, without the eyes of attack and babble, or the battlefield, you can instead to choose your mind, to shift your perception to a better way. This is why we call it a Course in Miracles. A miracle is a shift in perception from a fearful way of looking at the world and expressing and extending fear and perpetuate it in time and space. Instead, we have the opportunity to see it differently, to begin to look at the world enfolded in holiness, in the sacred, in the light of God. That is what we are interacting with at any moment. Okay? You seek innocence and peace. You seek abundance, prosperity, and joy. But often when you touch these things, it frightens you. Why? Because the truth of the kingdom requires openness, trust, expansiveness, and spaciousness. It involves allowing, trusting, witnessing, and letting things come and go. So in other words, you don't allow anything in time and space that is arising to hook you. You and I are not allowing anything in time and space to run us at all. It's not going to hook us at all. It does not add anything to us. It doesn't subtract anything from us. It doesn't change our own identity as a son or a daughter of God at all. Okay. How much of your suffering comes because you are clinging to a lifeless past and insisting that you carry it with you still? You see that? Wow. How much of your suffering, how much of your sadness, how much of your wanting in this experience will perpetuate and continue until and unless you and I are willing to let go of the lifeless past and to let go of the lifeless future too, and to live and move and abide here and now in our own reality. And then finally, from the way of mastery, creation itself that flows from the mind of God is ongoing forever. You will never cease to be. You will go on forever and forever and forever and forever and forever. You will go on forever exactly as you are now. You can allow the mind of God to flow through you, carrying you to an ever greater expansiveness and deepening your awareness of the infinite loveliness of the power of the mind of God. You know, I have said this through many, many times. Let me keep in mind one thing here. This is not my body. This is the body, I see that. But this is a device given to me to communicate the love of God to the world. That is the only purpose, the only meaning that the body has, this learning and teaching device. To learn myself, to learn that I am as God created me, and to learn that it is not what I have created myself. So this learning device instead, this vessel, also can then, after I learn that fact from our source, then I can begin to teach that to the world. How do I do that? by teaching to others our own identity, our own reality, and the love of God that you and I are here to extend to the world. To become the Christ incarnate, to become the love of God incarnate, to become the light of God incarnate. And Scott is absolutely correct here. The body is the outer shell. So, my attention then is not on the outer shell. My attention is all about what is happening inwardly, not outwardly. Happiness is an inside job, not an outside job. And this is what we should do, right? To experience the love of God every day. Look, let me just get very authentic with you here. Yeah, from time to time, we are having difficulties, right? We have moments of fear and guilt and shame and blame and criticism, okay? We have that. This happens in time and space. However, we can choose once again. Okay, we can enfold and embrace and allow all things that has already occurred in time and space, the past. It's already over and done with. But we are here and now. That's it. The peace of God comes within. You say, Kevin, I love peace. I love peace. Yeah, you do. But you can't experience that peace as long as you are entertaining the battle or the war that you yourself have created in your own mind. You're going to see the effects of it and the ripples of it immediately because of it. Okay? My friend, this is Thanksgiving Day. I invite you, yourself, to take upon the mantle of the love of God by expressing the good, the beautiful, and the holy every day. To become a device, a vessel, expressing the love of God by yourself, by taking responsibility for what you have either miscreated or created in time and space. That's it. So there's no blame, there's no victim, there is no guilt, there is no sin. All of that is an hallucination. It's a fallacy. And so whenever the phenomenon begins to arise in your mind right now, do what Jesus did. Do what Buddha did. When the temptations of the hallucination arise with them, what do? They dismiss it. They let it go quickly. Enlightenment does not ask us never having those moments. But it does ask that we never allow ourselves to keep it, to contain it, to perpetuate it, but to let it go as quickly as we possibly can in time and space. Okay? All right, before I say goodbye here, let me just look here. All right, folks, thank you so much for your time and your trouble today, this wonderful Thanksgiving Day in the United States. And thank you so much for your light and your love. And if no one has told you today that they love you, allow me to be the first. I love you so much. And you are pure light.